But in other states, there's a state board, but they provide oversight to the boards that are responsible for operating the schools. And among other things, that oversight, that statewide oversight board, insists upon transparency. They insist upon having the numbers that make sense, that you can compare apples to apples to apples. In Hawaii, the same board that's responsible for running all of the schools is responsible for providing oversight to itself. Little wonder that we don't have any more transparency in the numbers and in other important information than we do. Secondly, we've got a very unique system in that we've got this one statewide board, and there's a temptation to say, well, they're in charge of public education. But they really aren't. They don't have a source of funding themselves. They're dependent upon the legislature. And the legislature, rather than having lump sum budgeting where they just give a certain amount of money to the Board of Education to use to further public education in Hawaii, instead they have earmarks and line item budgeting and categorical funding. They're functioning like a super Board of Education. It's like they're a competing Board of Education. They're trumping what the Board of Education does all the time. And then the governor, who has this power to withhold money or to go ahead and allot money, in many instances, rather than doing so on a lump sum basis, saying, well, we don't have enough money, so I'm going to hold some back, but you, Board of Education, you decide what the expenditure pattern will be for the money that I do release. Instead, in many cases, you've got people at Budget and Finance making decisions as to the money will be spent for this and not for that. Board of Education was so frustrated a few years back, they sued, saying that this is wrong. We're supposed to be running the education system, and yet you've got this school board in the legislature, and then you've got a governor who's in a position to be dictating what's going on so far as the policy considerations are concerned. When everybody is in control, nobody's in control. You can share responsibility. We should share responsibility, but accountability, by its nature, that's where the buck stops. You can't blame the Board of Education for any results or lack of results in the system because they really aren't in control. But neither is the legislature by itself, neither is the governor, and this is unique. It's unlike this in any other jurisdiction. That strikes me as a problem. Thirdly, we are by far the most centralized top-down system in the country. And when you've got terrific people like Caroline, for example, it just seems to me what you want to do is to get control over the money down closer to the schools. Put the principals in charge of how they expend that money. Now, have a group, whether it's the SCC or a local school board, whatever it is, have a group that's close, that cares, particularly cares about that school and those kids, and have that group providing oversight. I mean, it's a tremendous amount of money, and some principals are better prepared for it than our other principals, but you need some oversight, not from the state office that's responsible for 270 some schools, but closer to the schools, and have that oversight, but empower the principal and put the principal on a performance contract. Right now, principals get paid the same amount whether the kids thrive or the kids fail in whatever way you're measuring that. They have job tenure. To the extent that the community is convinced that that principal is failing, good luck trying to get that principal out of there. Maybe through political maneuvering you can manage to get them moved on because the DOE will offer them a raise or something else to get them out of there, but they have tenure in the place. And it seems to me that they're like a CEO. Give them control over the money, give them support, give them oversight, and before all of this begins, give them an indication as to how you're going to determine whether it's working or not. Give them a performance contract. We're working with the principal. You're deciding, here's what we're looking for. As a community, this is how we're going to measure success. And then don't sit there and hope that the principal fails. Nobody is going to do that. Work with the principal, try to make it work, but if it's not working, you've got to have a mechanism, it seems to me, to make a change when a change needs to be made. This has to be about the kids rather than the adults in the system, and I think our governance system in public education is designed to serve the wants of the adults rather than the needs of the kids. And so while most important of all is what goes on in the classroom, the governance structure, I think, ultimately is going to have a big impact on the quality of education, what goes on in that classroom. And so more than anything, I'd say change that governance structure, Instead of having it be in the way of the principals and the teachers doing their job, have it be they're supporting, empowering them so that they can do everything that I know they're capable of